how did 2020 affect terminal operations? Here we have Andreas from Amorph Systems and Rico from Elenium Automation. So Andreas, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, so as we are, let's say, running close to the year's end, I thought it's maybe good to look back when everything was normal, yeah, and when that crisis started actually to evolve, yeah, around February, March, when we've seen that downturn is going to happen. And at that point in time, I think a lot of us were curious about what is going to happen, what type of measures will come, how will processes change, what is actually needed to ensure back passengers' confidence in flying, because what we've seen is that a lot of people have lost actually that confidence during that time. And as we, from a company perspective, we've looked into different technologies, thermal cameras and whatever is available there, and was hyped also for a couple of weeks and then dropped again. For us, it was really interesting to see, okay, how that different measures that were, let's say, discussed were brought in place, and some of them actually, as said, were dropped and others were followed. Yeah, and I think within, let's say, going a couple of weeks, months further, we've seen then the measures actually that were, let's say, applied, like social distancing, wearing face masks, and all these sanitization efforts that airports have done. And this created a huge impact actually on the existing capacity. So if you look at checkpoints, waiting areas, and the whole efficiency of the processes, actually that there was a big impact on those, and still, let's say, very volatile how these measures needed to be applied. Yeah, I think there was we never had actually that situation of almost daily changing measures and parameters that we need to adapt to. And for us, I think it was helpful also to get that feedback also from our customers, to see what are they looking for and what kind of scenarios are they planning. Airports that looked into how does that impact also my capacity at all, and how would that reboot happen if I still need to have those measures in place? I think this was one of the major questions that we were asked to help, especially in the airport domain, to see, okay, what will the future will be with growing numbers again, and these measures in place. So all around, what we, let's say, saw is the predictability actually, what, let's say, was a bit smashed down. Yeah, all the predictive systems operating with historical information were somehow crashed, but with the right, let's say, approach, it was at least possible to restore that and to get airports back, at least in a term of short-term, mid-term predictability, to get back to, okay, what is going to happen in the next couple of weeks, and what will happen if nationalities will bring up new measures. One of the major things that we've all seen, and I mean, this is like a common topic for all areas in the airline environment, are these cost cuts, but also the thinking in parallel how to make business more resilient, more flexible for the future. And I think one of the great shifts that we will see is, from an IT perspective spoken, getting from ownership to service. Software as a service will be much more, let's say, the required way of purchasing software, for example, than owning the ownership of a software license. This will completely shift, and I think this is also just, it's very clear, that airports want to go that way, because they need to reduce somehow the OPEX costs. So it's just a clear way of how to move things forward, and also how to bring companies back on board is adopting the commercial models towards the current situation.
Great, thank you for your input, Andreas. Andreas will be able to answer your questions after Rico is done with terminal operations. So we have two panelists speaking about terminal operations. Rico, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been really looking at the side of passenger growth, the challenges that we are in at the moment, and how do we manage that with anticipated passenger growth. So main challenges, and these are really unique that have come up with the whole COVID-19 crisis. We do temperature checks now in different forms in different areas at the airport. There is different airports doing COVID-19 rapid testing. We have health passports coming up. We have requirements to have a test shown, a proof of test. We will have the vaccine hopefully coming and being successful shortly. A lot of physical distancing at the airports and hygiene measures. Now, this just creates issues at the airport with terminal operations, with passenger flows and so on, which is probably not a big deal with the low numbers of passengers that we see right now. But what about passenger numbers growing? We will see issues around capacity doing that. We'll see issues about space efficiency. Accuracy of the different measures is always something of concern. For example, temperature checking being one of them. And trust, I mean, the health passports as well as having, for example, a certificate that you got the vaccine and so on. It's a big issue. We see that there are passengers already trying to fake a certificate, trying to make their way, which is natural when you have something like a test costing $100 or $200, which could be more than the flight ticket. People will try to cheat and will try to get around it. So these are kind of the challenges which really need new solutions, which you can see on the right side. So we anticipate a lot more touchless processing, which is something that has started before COVID-19 already. Also see different airlines and airports really pushing for biometrics approach, the IATA One ID project as well. I mentioned already the health passports and triage processing. With triage processing, I mean making sure that you can have efficiently check different passenger groups depending on their risk. Andreas already talked about business intelligence before. My personal belief as well is flight disruption solutions. I think the pandemic and the start of the pandemic has shown that there is a big weakness of flight disruption solutions automation. There's not big automation today with most of the airlines, and I do see that a big opportunity for airlines to invest in and make sure that there is automation behind disruption handling and so on. And in the end, it has been mentioned before, it's better collaborations between stakeholders. We've seen a lot of times airports, airlines, stakeholders fighting each other. I think right now we're all in the same boat. We all have a generic aviation issue, the industry issue, and we just have to collaborate. Next slide, please. So I would like to just show you very briefly in regards of something from outside of aviation. In Elenium, we have actually decided to move outside of aviation at the beginning of the pandemic, just in order to make sure that we survived the pandemic as well. We have already been working on different touchless solutions, more focused on passengers with reduced mobility and usability for the interfaces. And at the start of the pandemic, we have decided to enhance the touchless solutions with vital sign detection, which is now being used in different areas, in hospitals, in sports events, in elderly care facilities, at workplaces and so on, just to do a screening of passengers, or not passengers, workers and visitors and so on going in. And just, can you start the video, please? So just to quickly show you how easily this is, how easily this can be done, is really purely touchless. Basically, the person controls the screen with moving the head, just selecting what they want to select, doing a quick check of the vital signs. Basically, this is done every morning at different workers' place, so a factory or so on, before somebody can go in or somebody can go into an office. And we also see that these solutions are not purely for COVID-19. These are here to stay. The companies deploying these sort of solutions are thinking ahead, saying, well, what can we do in the next pandemic? What can we do to reduce the sick days for infectious diseases anyway? And these are the sort of things that we're seeing going forward. And I think looking at a couple of questions that also came up, I think there is a need to innovate. I think we will as an industry go into tremendous trouble with ramping up with the limited amount of staff that may be available, that may be available to be called back. And innovations are simply going to be required. Technologies are there. And I think there are also going to be new business models going forward that are looking at potentially not big investment possibilities around upfront cash payment. But it's really more going to be about can we do per use? Can we do something around renting? Can we do more? And Jan Willem mentioned it, software as a service, cloud deployment, instead of having big capital expenditure for on-site deployments and so on. I think there are a lot of things that can really help.
Okay, thank you, Rico. Thank you so much. You covered so many things about terminal operations. Jan Willem, do we have any questions from the floor to Andreas or Rico?
Not particular
then I
to them, but wait, easy. But actually, Andreas, Rico, I have one question that came up while listening to you. Now, I can imagine that airports being at the forefront of passenger touch points, or being the first kind of guard of passenger touch points. Rico, especially on your side, have you seen, to come back to to Daniel's question as well, have you seen some investments that were actually agreed on, or new contracts that were agreed on in 2020 during the pandemic regarding touchless travel?
We have seen airports investing. We have seen some of our customers also continuing to invest, anticipating the growth. So we have customers of ours just continuing on, not slowing down, really saying, well, we're confident that the passenger numbers are coming back. So there's really no reason of stopping now. And I think we've also all seen news or so on of different airports really taking the time, investing into infrastructure, using kind of the downturn, not basically being able to do investments even into infrastructure, not having to put big hoarding walls up and having to do construction work during peak passenger flow and so on. And at the same time, I believe there is a lot of airports and especially also airlines really looking at different technologies. And as said before, I think the struggle is, yes, many of the people are furloughed, many of the people are not at work potentially, but I think it's still crucial. And I think a lot of the airports and airlines understand that they need to be looking at what could there be next. And I think it's just managing kind of the right time to really still be able to do something, not be too late, versus spending the money and putting the people onto developing something early enough. And I think we will see quite a lot of development and quite a lot of movement in the coming few months, as soon as we probably see the first kind of results of the vaccine programs. Airlines will probably become more confident and then push forward to really get ready for summer potentially.
Great, Rico. There is one question. Thank you so much. There is one question for Andreas. How can we, and it's connected with what you just have said, how can we reconcile the need to innovate with the drastic reduction in revenues being experienced by airports?
Yes, I think this is a very valid question, because it's the situation that we are currently in, to focus on innovations together, not only we as suppliers, but also together with our customers and the airports we are in touch with, looking at innovation and at the same time facing that commercial issues the industry has. But I think, as already mentioned, it's the right time actually to look at it right now. Maybe it's even good to take into assumption acceleration programs that are out there. I think I've seen a lot of airports actually joining these kind of programs to make sure that somehow there are the right startups and SMEs picked up. So not everyone is running into their doors. So this is maybe one of, let's say, how airports started to respond. But I've seen also a lot of strategic work right now. So that's why I believe that 2021 can just get better, because a lot of the work actually that is needed upfront on a strategic level was pushed during the last weeks and months to definitely define what are the next steps. And then let's hope for 21 to be also commercially viable or more viable to actually push these kind of innovations. I hope that answered the question.
I would like to add quickly something to that. I think we have to look back a couple of years as well. The last few years, I think, were so extremely easy for airlines and airports in some areas of the world. Basically, you put a new plane out there, you increase your terminal space, and it was immediately filled. So there was really no big effort. It was just going very smoothly. And I think when you look at how normally companies and so on, they have to invest into solutions before they can actually sell something. And I think right now we're just in such a situation that there is a need for investment. Yes, it's going to be challenging, but I think the industry is still believing that there's going to be a way upwards. We see airlines being able to refinance their debt. We see airlines being able to get money from the market. So there is a belief from investors as well that the aviation industry is going to survive and come out very strong. And I think that's just which shows that the aviation industry is important. It's important to connect the world. We see it right now. It's so important in regards to freight as well. It's important to just keep the economies everywhere going. So I think it's just going to be natural that these dollars that flow into the aviation industry are going to be used for innovations to make things more efficient as well going forward.
Okay.
Rico, I think.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, one last question for Rico. Yeah. So how can the staff be protected with growing passenger numbers? Important point, because we have not only passengers, we have only staff. We want them to be healthy all the time. I think it's more on Elenium side. So what's your take on that, Rico?
And maybe if I, in connection with this, I would like to pick up a question that comes from Nina Abadia, and that goes a little bit in this direction. If you also think this in correlation, how do you bring initial touch points outside the airport location and into the home, first given the lower manpower at airports? I think this is a very good question and also relates very well to the question you asked, Piotr.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of drive for automation. We'll see a lot of push for passengers to be more prepared. We'll also see passengers are more conscious right now because there is a bit of uncertainty where you can travel, how you can travel. So I think these sort of things are gonna be pushed more out to the passengers anyway. So passengers are going to be more prepared. They're going to be more willing to actually check in at home, do whatever they can at home or on a mobile device, and then really get fully prepared to the airport where they potentially just have to drop their bag and move forward. I really like the Star Alliance initiative for biometrics that I've seen. It's not we haven't been involved but I love the kind of approaches on that they're doing it, and I think it's really something that passengers can opt in, and I think this is going to be the future where you opt into an initiative or something that you can use across different airlines, and you simply flow through the airport. In regards of staff, and I've shown the examples from outside of aviation. A lot of companies take a lot of care of their staff. They have also seen that, especially with infectious diseases spreading, their operations can come to a stop very, very quickly. So I think looking in the future, both with staff but also with passengers, is going to be very, very important that all the aviation companies are taking care of the health of the staff, of the passengers as well, and look at signs or so on what could be going on, and be ready to act quicker than what we've seen right now, going from an epidemic in one country to a pandemic within a matter of probably 3-4 weeks, and I think this is something that people will need to be more prepared and look at whatever they can in regards of being prepared for the next one.
Cool. Great. I think we can also ask Andreas one last question. Yeah, about what proactive.
Just a small contribution to the staff topic, because I think one thing is the on-site. Let's say health and security issues, but what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, months, and that is due to the whole home office approach actually is that airports also start to think of how can we engage people also in an operational mode working from home. So if you look at pre-corona, everything was around AOCC. Let's build a big operation center and put everyone in there. Now we see the opposite somehow. How can we bring actually teams virtually together? And therefore you need technology. There's no way around getting the information into, let's say, cloud-enabled environments and letting people join actually these platforms to enable them work together without being on site. Just one remark from my side.
Yeah, Andreas, it perfectly answered my question. Thank you so much.